Everyone, thank you.
Could you make sure your microphone is turned on?
Where's David Unger? Usually,
A light on there.
can you hear it? Can you hear me?
There you go.
Oh, okay, I can even hear
My
you.
business.
Anyway, good evening. As Chris said, I too believe that the majority of people here in this room are here to support our, our collective efforts to address the Limestone Road zoning. Three of us specifically, Rona Devane, Pete Rosinski, and myself, Clariello, I'm from Harlow Point, have been working very hard the past year and a half on this, and we hope to address, the three of us will be speaking to hopefully address some of the concerns that we have. And thank you all residents for being here. I know a lot of my guys are here. Anyway, so Clariello, Harlow Point, Landenberg. Jeff, as you kind of pointed out when you were just speaking, we did compare the mixed use and light industrial districts, and this is what we found. Out of the 128 uses in the mixed-use district, 76 of those are currently non-conforming uses under the current regulations in the Unified Development District. We also found 50 differences between the light industrial and mixed-use districts that are unfavorable to the surrounding communities. In Mike Pia's Limestone Mixed-Use District proposal, received this morning. Thank you, Mike. There are 36 differences between his and the light industrial district. I'm just trying to explain like the numbers and that we're not extremely very far off considering the top number of 128. Please note that the light industrial district was recommended by this task force and is more aligned with the 2018 comprehensive plan. We can certainly provide more details and justification on these differences. The mixed-use districts is a significant departure from the current zoning and the recommended light industrial district. The minor changes made to the mixed-use district by the task force recently did not address any of the most serious concerns that about the uses that were brought forth in the public process and deemed inappropriate by this task force that we brought forward. I want to specifically note comments made at a few meetings on the Limestone Road topic. First one, at the September 24th Planning Commission meeting, Samantha McLean of Michael Baker International declared, "We didn't think that a mixed use like commercial heavy district made sense here. You, the task force, were correct, as in the 2018 comprehensive plan, the area is designated as small-scale mixed use. Throughout the zoning process, mixed use has been regularly referred to as the Route 41 corridor." At the July 28th New Garden Township meeting, Samantha states, "Mixed-use town center type feel. The mixed-use corridor, which is primarily along Gap Newport Road or Route 41, is really your mixed-use commercial office residential corridor that can be accessible by vehicles, but nearby to some of the residential areas in the workshop." Simply saying that this aligns with the comprehensive plan for Route 41, but not Limestone Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have.
And if you have notes, if you want to provide them, yeah.
I have a handout.
It's for me.
Hello again.
Rona Devane here on the behalf of the Estates of Harrogate and a lot of the people here. Most of this room is here supporting our efforts that have been ongoing for a year and a half. I just also want to recognize that you have all also been working really hard for that year and a half. And we took extra note of that because we went through every single meeting and reviewed what has been said over that time. So we thank you, and we know everyone is tired. We all want to, I think, be done with this. We're here to try to come together. That said, the task force, after very careful deliberation and going through the defined process that included not only homeowners, but landowners who sought to develop, and this was mentioned in multiple meetings, saying we got feedback from landowners who were seeking to develop, and that was considered. It's clear that something happened last minute. We don't understand it. Honestly, we are just so shocked and dismayed by what has happened because we have been publicly participating for a year and a half in this process. The comprehensive plan of 2018 is the foundation that permits and limits the zoning changes. It needs to be consistent with the traditional character of the township. And Limestone Road, Pete is going to speak more about this. I feel like I'm going in and out, was designated as an arterial to move traffic and as a transition between residential and commercial. And when it's an arterial, well, I'm going to let Pete speak to that. Before you, you have maps from the 2018 comprehensive plan that clearly shows a differentiation between the Limestone Road area and parts of 41. The zoning diagnosis memo also clearly differentiates between Limestone Road overall and the Kaolin Route 41 intersection. There's a big difference there in what we're talking about. That memo, which was referenced by Mike Pia, only refers to that intersection, the Kaolin site. In the comprehensive plan, Limestone Road is designated as small-scale mixed use. I took some time and got some definitions on small-scale mixed use, some from Chesco Planning. It's used in development in Pennsylvania, typically refers to projects that combine residential, commercial, and sometimes institutional uses within a single building or small area, often designed to serve local communities. So if you're serving local communities, that's not like a hub to bring people, you know, at least in that little district. These developments aim to create vibrant neighborhoods by integrating living, working, and recreational spaces in close proximity. Some examples are a sole proprietor's residence above his retail store, a duplex where the owner rents one unit and then lives in the other, an office or licensed daycare facility located within a residence. Again, this is from Pennsylvania. Small-scale mixed-use development combines residential, commercial, and sometimes other uses with a small footprint, often in a 4 to 12-unit building to create walkable, vibrant communities. Key strategies include integrating services for basic needs using smaller commercial formats like kiosks or micro stores, and often placed in urban, infill, or suburban areas, as they can increase social interaction, support local businesses, and reduce vehicle miles traveled. So per that map, you can see that area is supposed to be designated as small-scale mixed use. It is not part of the economic development area on Route 41, nor is it part of the planned development district in the comprehensive plan of 2018. We're speaking to the 2018. We did let Mike know his letter that we received today, that I guess you all received, references a 2004 comprehensive plan. We were going by the current comprehensive plan that governs. The Planning Commission, Samantha reaffirmed, we look through the lens of what does that comprehensive plan say about that area and how to use permissions align. She also said that the big takeaways is this ordinance, we want to set rules and regulations that allow the township to continue to develop and meet in ways that meet the objectives of the comprehensive plan. That was back in February. We looked at the goals that you had in your comprehensive plan and the goals for this ordinance, and we said, does this map reflect what the comprehensive plan is saying? You took our proposed limestone district, and after careful deliberation, the task force made changes to what we proposed to make it a compromise. You already did that, And after very careful thought, this was more consistent with the comprehensive plan and the current conforming uses. Per the definitions in the draft ordinance, light industrial is established to provide a transition between mixed use and residential areas and promote light industrial research and development, small-scale manufacturing, neighborhood-scale commercial activities, and limited residential compatible with the nearby residential environment. I also want to point out that the primary objectives of the zoning project are to align zoning regulations with community vision, to promote sustainable land use, and to, this is the big one, that is to enhance the quality of life. So we need to ask, is this enhancing our quality of life? I'm just going to go through a few things that you guys kind of weighed in on. At the Planning Commission meeting, we heard feedback that the Innovation District might be a little too intense. So to reflect uses that are currently in a lesser intensity than the Innovation District, and the task force proposes the Light Industrial District. This maintains the existing uses that are there, and then also permitted in the Unified Development District, and aligns more with the community proposal that was submitted by a nearby neighborhood. That was what, after deliberation, great deliberation. You had a 4-hour meeting, and thank you again, because you volunteer your time on 9/11. In that meeting, the intent of the district would be, we have a draft intent statement that would establish to provide transition between, again, this has just been consistent for 1.5 years, transition between that mixed-use corridor and the residential areas to promote light industrial research and development, small-scale manufacturing, neighborhood-scale commercial activities. So like a small scale, not generating a ton of traffic, and limited residential, which would be compatible with the nearby residential environment. Chris, you pointed out the long-term implications, and we really appreciate that. And it's something that maybe everyone is not thinking about. You explained why you liked it. A lot of people agreed that it's more transitional, but talked about the possibility that these small parcels could be built, that they could be bought up, and 10 years from now, 25 years from now, a massive buyout, what would that look like for someone to develop that land that's not aligned with a comprehensive plan that requires it to be small scale mixed use? So at that meeting, the agreement was, it seems like a nice transition zone. You were prepared. You actually did recommend that district. And I want you to think, I'm not asking you to respond. I just want you to think about this personally. If we would have come to you at this stage, after 1.5 years of a defined process, how would we be received saying, hey, we want this district? So again, at that meeting, Samantha then spoke and said, creating that separate district so the Innovation District in the north can kind of function with intent that we wanted, and the light industrial is kind of a pared down approach to that area. It's like we want to encourage big business up north and keep it more moderate down south. In that meeting, Samantha also explained that you felt it was the most appropriate for the district and the consistency. You went through line by line and made those determinations to make sure it was consistent with the current conforming uses and the comprehensive plan. The light industrial district was always the compromise. We submitted something different, and you made those changes after your careful consideration. We are prepared to review line items. We did receive this, this today from Mike Pia. We did also have a meeting with him. He canceled that meeting. We do understand he was upset. He thought that we were disparaging him. I'm here in front of a group of people. That was not the intent. We knew that publicly. Chris had said it when we spoke with the Laffertys. It was said in multiple meetings. When we spoke with the developers, again, those were not public meetings. Those were happening. We don't know what was happening. We have been publicly coming and being a part of that process. So Mike, that was not aimed at you. I'm here to say that publicly. That was not the intention. But we did try to sit down with Mike and meet as you asked us to, and he did not want to meet with us. So we are prepared to go line by line. We do think that there are a couple of things that maybe could be compromised on, but there are other things that are clearly very inappropriate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
You referenced a 4-hour meeting, so buckle up, we're ready to do.
Well, you know, we
No, it's fine.
went to that meeting expecting that
Yeah.
recommendation was going to be approved. And so, you know, again, we follow the process.
Can I ask you a question? Which period are you talking about, senior or junior?
Mike Junior has been,
Junior.
the one you sent us.
Thank you.
and he's been, yeah, no, we're good, yeah.
You said
Right.
must be a-
We're trying to be respectful and.
I understand, but I just want to know exactly which one.
Yeah, I'd like to personally, Mike, I'd like to personally reiterate that we did not intend anything. It's all due to other things that have been going on. Thank you. My name is Peter Mrozinski. I live in 309 Hyde Park Road. I've been involved in this process. I have not been coming to every meeting. I have gone to all the planning, all the public input meetings, and I have spoken several times at Board of Supervisor meetings related to zoning. So I'm very much up on it. I've spent a lot of time with Claire and Rona, but I've not been at all these meetings. So we agreed today that they would speak and that my job was to listen and see if there's anything they missed. So I don't have any prepared remarks. I do have a couple things I'd like to reiterate. And one of them is the point that I've been making since the beginning, is that our understanding is that the zoning process is driven by the 2018 comprehensive plan. That has been what we have been looking at. Important issues about that plan. And Chris, you said it here again, it is not true. The comprehensive plan does not identify Limestone Road as a targeted growth area. I'm prepared to go through every mention of Limestone Road in that plan. It is never referred to as a growth area. The only references to Limestone Road are in relation to the intersection with Route 41, the Kaolin Priet property. All it talks about is what kind of lights you need there, what kind of traffic flow needs to be there. That plan says nothing about Limestone Road development.
Mr. Mrozinski, do you think that was intentional or that was just a missed thing?
I don't know. In the plan, you mean?
In the comprehensive plan?
I don't understand why it's not. I don't. There is the reference, if you look, I don't know if Claire has handed out the maps, there's the land use map that was part of the plan. And it shows Limestone Road connected with the Priet area, but extending down farther on that map. And it shows it as small scale mixed use, not the kind of mixed use we've been talking about here, but it's identified as small scale mixed
And
use.
Mr. Mizzi, just to clarify, and I just want to make sure people,
That's
so not it's
yeah,
a mixture of uses and scales of size of intensity. It's recognized as the fact that this is an intended growth area. What type of growth and what type of scale of mixtures of use, I don't think it's been part of the, just, discrepancy between the two. That's part
I'm
of the
sorry,
discussion.
what'd you say?
The types of scale of the mixtures of use was one where I think that's been kind of the dialogue, but never really understanding or at least having a discrepancy on whether or not Limestone was a targeted corridor. It's been part of the targeted corridor for some type of growth as a growth corridor. So the discussion about what type of growth based off of what types of mixtures and the intensity of those mixtures of uses, whether it be light industrial with some kind of compromises on use.
I'm referring to the comprehensive plan.
This is right out of the comprehensive plan.
That's what I'm saying. That's the only reference, and it is designated as small scale mixed use.
Correct, and that's growth.
What
Yeah.
we're not gonna do is
think we're-
have,
yeah.
a lot of kibitzing from the audience. You know, we'd like to get community engagement, but we're not gonna have an ongoing discussion on this side of the room, okay? Thank you.
I actually think we're mixing words here. My point is the plan does not identify that specifically as a growth area. But the only reason I'm saying that is not that I'm opposing growth there.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm saying that is that's what we keep hearing, is that we need to accept mixed use because that Limestone Road has been identified as a growth area. For that use, it has not.
And basically, all of the conversations have been around why things are the way they zone and they are, why they're written the way they're written, and why the walks, talks, and acts like a duck kind of measures of having something kind of shape this corridor in the future has been one where that's probably subject to some level of debate in terms of the types of uses, but not one where it's ever been considered not a growth corridor.
And we're not saying that shouldn't be developed.
Correct. And so actually, there's probably not really an argument here to be had.
I think you understand what I'm saying. So the other thing that the plan, when it talks about Limestone Road, is it identifies it as a major arterial. And a major arterial has a requirement that mobility or throughput takes precedence over access to property. So when we went through looking at all that was recommended for that Limestone Road, we worry about the traffic. You put anything on there that's going to have a high volume of turning traffic, you're going to back up Limestone Road. And that's against your comprehensive plan right there. You cannot put, if you want to stick to the words of the plan, you can't put anything that has high access in and out traffic, because you start making left turns, you're going to back traffic up beyond the Delaware line and beyond 41, because it's already bad there. So the point I want to make is that was our frame of mind. We also recognize that, and I agree with you, there are two opposing, and I'm hoping they're closer than we all think they are. We really do. The landowners are looking at it rightfully. I have no argument with them on that. They are rightfully looking to get the best value out of their property. That's their right as landowners. The other side are the residents, and I call it, we look at backyard issues. We worry about things like traffic, we worry about noise, we worry about smells. Those are the things that will affect our quality of life. I have to give this one example just because I thought of it today. One of the allowed uses in mixed use would be a dog kennel. I live in Harrogate. We have a rule that residents cannot tie their dogs up outside because we don't want to hear barking. You put a dog kennel in there, there's going to be 25 dogs every day barking all day. That's what I mean about the backyard issues. Those are the things that we worry about. What I think the consequence of that is, I know that you rightfully worry about too many conditional or special use assignments because that complicates the whole thing. But I believe that to balance what the landowners want and what we would like, you're going to have to give on that. You're going to have to come up with more conditional uses. Examples are maybe, you pick some, let's say there was a hotel hotel is approved. Putting a hotel right behind somebody's house is going to have a big impact on them. Putting a hotel somewhere else in that district is not going to have a big impact. So maybe that kind of thing needs to be conditional so that the residents and the homeowners will have input and put some conditions on what can go in those areas. I think that's all I thought of. So
Thank you very much.
thank you. And I want to also appreciate the time you guys put in on this. I don't know how you do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Mike Pia Jr. I'd sent that email out earlier. I gave a history of the UD district. I won't get into too much of the details, but I just want to correct one thing. The 2018 plan does not reference the intersection of 41. It references the Kaolin site at 41/limestone areas. And that language goes all the way back to 1996 when Chester County designated that crossroads of 41 and Limestone Road as a rural center. It was one of two areas in New Garden Township. The other one was in Tough Kenneman. So what that was a county level planning exercises after they saw all the growth and the sprawl that occurred in the late 70s and early 80s. The county got together and said, we need to begin to promote smart growth. So they took property boundaries, municipal boundaries off a map, and they looked at where growth makes the most sense. In New Garden, they chose one of two places. They didn't choose the Sunnydale and 41 intersection. They didn't choose the 41 site proper. They choose the Limestone Road and the 41 intersection. And if you look at it from a planning standpoint, what the intention was, at least what I feel, was to have sort of a cross from Hartfeld to the Delaware line, from the Kaolin site to the Delaware line, and activate that growth corridor. I disagree that Limestone Road was meant to be anything other than a growth corridor. We have conservation corridors in the county. We have scenic byways. We have designations for these areas that are not meant to grow. This was obviously not one of them. I won't go through all the history of this, but just one thing I didn't mention. An interesting thing to look at, and I can try to distribute these articles to as many people as possible. There's a 1991 article called from the Philadelphia Inquirer called something like a community neighbors can live with, or a neighborhood community can live with, something like that. And it pretty much tells what's going on in New Garden Township in 1991. It talks about the zoning that New Garden's putting into place. It talks about the infrastructure that they're putting into place. It talks about the uses that the township felt would not help to promote a town center and high-end residential along Route 41, my grandfather's composting wharf being one of those, and the careful relocation of those businesses. There's also 5 years later, New York Times did an article on commercial compost moves indoors or something like that. That's pretty much a follow-up to the 1991 article talking about the progress the township made and all the things that would go into it. So there is a lot of history here. The planning, I feel, for that Crossroads corridor began in the 80s when the UD was originally drafted. You can see how it spans to where current day Harrogate is, all the way to flanking the Lafferty property. It totally encapsulates that area. So there's a lot of history. The reason I was referencing the 2004 plan was because I'd already talked about the 2018 plan. I interpret that phrase as the Kaolin site at 41/limestone areas to mean the Kaolin site and limestone areas. Otherwise, why even reference limestone? The Kaolin site's 1,000 feet from the limestone intersection. There'd be no reason to reference it. You could have just referenced Kaolin as far as I'm concerned. I did put together the limestone mixed light concept. I didn't know what else to call it. It can be a modified limited industrial, but I tried to take into consideration everything that I've heard at these meetings, going back and listening to old planning commission sessions and reading the minutes to understand what the neighbors did not want in that in that district, and I think we cut a good bit of them. The issue with the LI is not necessarily the use, although I have issues with the use. Like, when we look at the whole zoning, I got issues I could call out in the enterprise, in the innovation, in the mixed use, but there's fights to be fought. My issue with the limited industrial is that the whole ordinance itself, the way that it was drafted, is fundamentally flawed. And whether it's intentionally from a technicality standpoint, or it's just the way that things are going to work out, you're not going to get the growth, whether subtle or major, that I think the township's necessarily looking for. I agree that there's a time and a place for conditional use and special exceptions, but I think that it was greatly used, mostly disproportionately to any other use in any other zoning district, which penalizes the landowners, it penalizes people that comes in, and in most cases, it was for what I would consider non-conditional use criteria land uses, and that's an issue because there's fairness and there's consistency, and I think by virtue of having this meeting here tonight, we are showing a lot of fairness, but at a certain point, if it's permitted by right across the board and it's a minor use, what's the justification that this district gets such special scrutiny over an individual use? I haven't seen a justification for that other than the neighbors want it. We would have loved, as the neighbors would have loved, that type of input when a lot of the residential housing was being built around us, but we didn't necessarily, get that same level. The service and retail uses, going back to the 2004 comp plan, that's the exact type of use that we should be promoting along a highway corridor. It doesn't necessarily need to be a heavy intensity use, but these uses were nearly totally stripped or made unusable. The bulk area regs, probably my biggest issue with the whole LI and why I said it was emotionally put into the plan and why I said it was rushed was the fact that the bulk area regulations are totally incomplete. You have a single minimum standard for residential and non-residential. You have very shallow setbacks for certain uses, which the neighbors are not going to like long-term. And for me, it looked like it was something that was put together and thrown in there very quickly. The residential components and district classification. So again, you look at townhouses, they're permitted in 6 different districts, except this one has to go through conditional use. Why? Same with apartments. What's the justification? If it's going to be consistent conditional use, make it consistent across the board. If it's permitted in every other district, there's no reason why these lands should be penalized more than any other land in the township. Existing uses. I think that there was a legitimate good effort by the neighborhood groups to try to include some of the existing uses, albeit special exception and conditional use and everything else. But I think there was a genuine effort. There are a ton of uses when you get into the actual definition of what's going on at these different facilities and buildings and whatnot that were not captured. That's going to leave us in a state of non-compliance. As somebody who's lived their life in various stages of non-compliance in New Garden Township, it's a nightmare and it's not something that we want to enter into. If we're going to try to correct the rights or some of these wrongs, we need to start with making sure that existing business owners can continue to function as they have been, not be burdened by a non-conformity. And then I included just a couple of technical items, for where these districts should. So what I put forward, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, if you're giving us 2 choices of mixed use versus limited industrial, I think the landowners in the area were very clear on which one they preferred. So I can't say I'm speaking for every landowner in the 41 corridor when I put together the limestone mixed light concept, but it was an intention to try to, legitimately, I've been making a list for the last few months and went through a lot of the concerns that the folks have continuously brought up, and we tried to eliminate a lot of those to the best extent we could. So I appreciate the the time here. I'm not sure where we go from here from a zoning standpoint. I think that there's still certainly a divide with what's permitted in the mixed use versus the LI, and the LML, or whatever you want to call it, was an attempt to try to satisfy as many people as possible.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
As they always say, a horse built by a committee is a camel. So it's one where I think that can probably explain all the procedural approaches to shift it over time, probably identifies a lot of just the permutations that you've seen in that. But I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to add to that. Those were the people who particularly spoke up at the last planning commission. They were targeted and outreach in terms of making sure that they were able to speak today.
I think there was
If there's anybody else that wants
one-
to add to that as well.
one more lady. Please.
Hopefully I can reach the microphone. My name is Martha Davis, and I live in Harrogate.
Are you comfortable with removing your mask while you're at the microphone? It's very hard to hear you. I
I
apologize.
don't want to get sick.
Appreciate that.
Okay. One of my questions and my concern is, how are you making these decisions? When you talk about your ability to see the needs from the different groups, the landowners and the community, what is your process? How are you measuring that? That's one of my questions. You're saying that you're gonna close the gap. I want to know how. How are you going to prioritize the needs? Because obviously, part of it, there are opposite needs. So how are you going to prioritize that? I think I'm concerned about that, and I want to know. I want to know your process. The other one is to tell you that you have the responsibility to protect the existing residents, to protect their public health, to protect their public safety, to protect their property values, to protect the environmental quality of where we live. I'm an older person. I'm trying to keep my health. I'm exercising, I'm eating well, and I'm not going to be smelling, not only smelling, but sacrificing my health with hazards. I'm not willing to do that. And I think a lot of people here are not willing to do that either. So my question is, how you base your decisions? Are there any agencies involved? Is the health department giving you a survey? Do you have any information about these agencies? The environmental agency, the health department, the traffic control, transportation? How are you making these decisions? I guess that's my major concern. I'm not against businesses, but I think if you're going to put businesses in communities like ours, you need to think of how you can align those businesses with the future of these communities. You're here to enhance that. We elect you to protect us. And that's what I would like to see, that you are addressing all of those concerns.
This meeting tonight was for a very, very limited, first of all, they didn't get elected, so they got appointed. But secondly, this meeting tonight was for a very limited purpose of looking at the uses in the Village Gateway District and in the Limestone Road corridor. So work has been done on the ordinance for the last year and a half, and I was having trouble understanding you. I have a cold. I'm sure it's my ears.
No, I think it's my accent, but I think he's pretty
No.
good. I think you can understand it.
At
You pay
any
attention
rate,
to it.
so they're limited tonight really to just making a determination of what uses go in that corridor. The questions that you raise, as I heard them, are very good questions. They're part of the municipality's planning code, and they have been addressed for the last year and a half. as
Well, but I
they've gone
haven't
through
been
this.
here for the last year and a half. I think it's okay to readdress them. I understand you have other goals today, so I thank you for your listening and your attention. But since I haven't been involved in this process,
Well,
it's
tonight's
okay for
meeting
me
is
to
a
protest.
very, very limited scope, so unfortunately, they have discussed all of those things for the last year and a half, and tonight is very limited and not the more widespread basis for a zoning ordinance in the consideration. It's just,
Well, I still would request that formally and on record, that the zoning board you are, provide the public with all those things, because I don't have it. I don't have your environmental surveys. I don't have any of that. So maybe some people here don't have it either.
it has
It's a-
been on the township website for a very long time. All of the documents have been available, and the meetings have been, for the most part, I believe.
Yeah, I would encourage you to look at the New Garden Township website. There's a section for zoning, and there's a rich source of information there that has a lot of answers to the questions that you shared with us, probably many more as well. And I would encourage you to dive in. It really rewards an investment in research, because it really does, with great transparency, share with everybody in the community what we've been doing and how we've been doing it.
Well, besides your transparency, I don't agree with the way you're going. So I'm not in agreement with your process.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Two quick clarifications based on what Mike had brought forth. I do have the language about Route 41 and Kaolin. They form the comprehensive plan. They specifically mention sites, Baltimore Pike, Tough Kenneman, the business park adjoining the New Garden Flying Field, and the Kaolin site at Route 41 and Limestone Road. We cannot infer from that that includes Limestone Road. It would have said Limestone Road. Nowhere, again, nowhere in the comprehensive plan does it say that that was designated as a targeted thing. The other thing I'm just asking is for when you are considering the line-by-line items, to make sure that that is consistent with small-scale mixed use. Small-scale mixed use, because that is what the comprehensive plan requires. So thank you, guys. I just want.
All right.
So in terms of moving forward, unless I cannot believe there would be more detail provided outside of inputs provided by the members of the two representatives of the different sides here. But in terms of process moving forward, I want to focus on that. It would be one where obviously that recommended matrix that was brought forward was today. So there's going to have to be some deliberation on that. I don't know if you want to go through it line by line today, or do you want to take it offline and come back? Like, it's just what you prefer to do in terms of just self-study time needed.
Well, I think one of the, that's a great question, Chris. And at our last planning commission meeting, one of the things that was really clear is the commissioners were uncomfortable proceeding with making a final recommendation to the board of supervisors, because it was clear that it was clear that we didn't feel like we adequately understood the concerns of the various constituencies, and accordingly, we couldn't incorporate those concerns. And that was a big part of the motivation for having this additional session for the task force to get together, but also to hear in more detail the concerns of the residents and the property owners. And I think we've heard and we understand better than we did before. And I think that our original approach to balance those concerns, which was to take mixed use minus, was unsatisfactory to the residents. And it seems like a light industrial plus might be an approach that better balances the interests of both the property owners and the residents. Armed with the additional feedback that we've received from our neighbors tonight, I think we ought to think through looking at a light industrial plus, as well as the utilization of permitted by right and conditional use and special exception to make sure it's consistent throughout the zone, so that there isn't an unfair level of scrutiny applied to one particular zone. How does the group feel about that? Is that something that we can do here? Or do we want to digest what we've heard tonight and then meet again to talk it over amongst ourselves?
I'd rather do some of it here
Okay.
now, but Mr. Morgan, are you gonna say anything?
I don't think it would be useful to go through the 34 differences here before a large group, and that we'd come up with anything before midnight. So I would recommend that we get together again, go through, have a discussion. Line by line, it appears the only way we can do that. I had hoped that the two opposing views would do more than one comparison, that there would be some give and take. It appears we don't have that. So I think we take it upon ourselves.
Mike, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, sorry, I agree with Don. I think, yeah, we can go through it line by line, but, taking everybody's time for the next 3 or 4 hours might not be.
Are there questions in your minds that are unresolved related to the interests of the various stakeholders?
I do have questions. If you could bring up the map with the different,
Which one?
the one,
Current one?
this one will do, I guess. I have my laser pointer.
Oh, we have
So,
the
Miss
saber fight here.
Miss
Trying to inject some humor.
Miss
It's very
Viv-
serious in tone right now. We're talking
the,
about land use.
so the in here, that's where,
Chris.
yeah, that's where that's the States of Harrogate and Harlow Point. And that was inside the UD. That the UD was there before those were developed, you believe, or we're not sure the timeline. They were developed in the early 2000s.
You're talking about these two areas here within the UD.
Yes.
My understanding is they were. I can't remember which permutation, because the UD's been updated in and of itself incrementally, and it's always been intact since the township's inception of zoning. The last major update to the actual use block was right around, I think it was actually pretty recently. It was right around the late 2010s. But that was more about configurations of the use, but actual map updates, I don't think there's been any adjustments of the map.
So those
We did a
developed,
lot of ordinance adjustments. We didn't do a lot of map adjustments from an ordinance perspective. That's my understanding of it, at least.
so those two 55-plus
Been involved with the
residential
zoning probably the longest in the room.
developments, those two 55-plus residential developments were built inside the Unified Development
That's
District.
my understanding, yes. They weren't built and then zoned accordingly.
That's correct.
And it's been proposed, well, it's debated whether the mixed use and the UD are this similar or not. I guess,
The inception of Harlow Point and Harrogate North are the conduit of a mixed-use unified district zoning, if that's what you're trying to get to.
okay.
Yeah.
And then the other comparison you had, where you had the mixed use on top and the light industrial in the middle, mixed use allows townhomes and light industrial does not. Is that fair?
That's per the use matrix breakdown for by right uses, yes. I'd have to go in to see if there was conditional or special exceptions for different housing types, but they didn't have a lot of differentiation from housing types, from residential uses. If you just went through the matrix for residential, it's more about all the different permutations of commercial aspects of the different uses, if you will.
Okay.
That's why I kind of came to the conclusion that it's just by definition, the amount of higher density outcomes related to the fact that you could have smaller units for residential purposes was more permissible in the mixed use district. So from a residential outcome, this kind of fits more residential outcomes from the different districts.
Thanks. And if you go back to the map one more time, please. So around Estates of Harrogate and Harlow Point, there already is light industrial, right? Because these are all this is
So
the,
this facility right here is the Edgecraft building.
there's the Edgecraft there, and then this is the storage units. This is
They're
all the storage
essentially
units.
storage units in these two areas. I'll go to a bigger kind of area. So,
It's the,
trying to find a bigger map, but I guess those are the two we're at to work with right now. These two parcels at the end cap here on the corner of the intersection, that's open. These two are built out,
the storage units, right?
and then you have the landscaping kind of materials, kind of on the opposite side of the intersection there,
Right. So up against,
or mushroom grow houses.
and these are mushroom grow houses, right? If you had Chesco views, you'd see that, and they're not considered light industrial. In the light industrial, they'd be non-conforming. Or in the mixed use, they're,
So in the updated ordinance and in the existing ordinance, by right use of agricultural facilities is in the existing ordinance in the residential zones. It's not, you don't have by right use of agricultural facilities in the existing, like this. is
In the
not
UD.
By right use in the UD. It's existing non-conforming use. So in the future issue with what we did with agricultural facilities, by right use allowance was kind of designated for the enterprise and the existing residential zones, residential low, medium, and flex,
but not
but
mixed
not in the
use.
commercial areas for mixed uses.
Right.
And that's consistent with today. That's kind of the reason for it.
Thank you.
Doesn't solve any of the futurity of whether or not there would be existing conforming uses of agricultural uses for mushroom properties unless they were zoned as a residential flex, because they're permissible by right in the residential zones.
I have one question before these people all disappear. Is there a possibility that the two parties can sit down and come up with a recommendation on the 34 differences that exist today?
Yeah, well, four of us are willing to stay with you if you'd like to do it tonight.
No, I don't know.
Okay, or if you can give us 48 hours and we could possibly do it together. I mean, maybe the four of us can even meet after.
For instance,
He doesn't want
yeah.
to do that.
I'm
so-
sure you can eliminate some of the inconsistencies. For instance, I don't really think Mr. Pia needs to have dog boarding as a high-value proposition. Is that correct?
I'm sure we can come to some compromises and, yeah,
Yes.
we understand what you're saying.
That would get us a long way towards coming to a solution,
So let me.
my opinion.
Let me just make sure, Winnie suggests we all not meet with you and that the four of us can get together and, or whoever's here. I mean, could we use a room here? My house is not big enough.
Oh, yeah, this is
Oh,
a public building.
please.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are we, so. They would like to?
I would just, so we have a planned power outage. We have that new generator we're installing. So Wednesday and Thursday, the power is going to be.
No, I was asking for now.
Oh, for now. Gotcha. Well, I also want to make sure because we do have to close the building and shut the power off and lights off and stuff. So is there amenable time at another date?
Yeah, I think,
This is in advance of the planning commission meeting on the 17th, excuse me.
Yeah.
So as long as that can be done,
I think since we're all here now, if it's possible.
we have to close the building and we have kind of staff and just.
All
wanna
right,
make
so.
sure.
so
Chris, can you just enlighten, because I'm just confused.
What's that?
So did the zoning task force propose the light industrial?
if you guys would like to talk further about could you please do so outside so that we can continue with?
Hazelwood,
Thank you.
we realize that.
Proposed by
you
them,
can't,
right?
and
We never actually proposed light.
to mixed use, is that what that is?
Well, I think it went mixed use, innovation, then they opposed innovation and proposed. So here's the take, and this is. Oh, yeah. And we just heard.
Yes.
All right. See you next time. They can't tell.
Hey, Dem. All right. So thanks, everybody, for coming out this evening. It's been a long night and a long process. I really appreciate the feedback from the group and your patience with us as we work through the last few steps of the project. And I think we have the information that we need to do some additional deliberation. So thanks again for coming out. And our public task force meeting is adjourned.